Right, we are brawling with Niv. So we're running Jegantha as a companion, so just for fun restriction. And this is our stand deck. We are not going above 5, because if we're going to do 5, we're going to cast Niv. So our 4 drops for killers are Solar Blaze is our board wipe, Kali Ritual is our weenie wipe, King of the Oathbreakers, and Edgar is Resilient Threats. We have Flower to sort things out. We're running a lot of low to the ground ramp because we want to on 1 drop something that will help us get our land situation sorted, and 2 we want to then hold up interaction or into moves. Right, from the new Lord of the Rings set we're running Galadriel, Smeagol, Bilbo, the Foresight, what else are we running? Frodo. I believe that is everything. So this is the deck, list will be in below, and we're going to run into some games and see how things go. Let's see. Alright, here, we got the Niv-Mizzet deck here. This isn't going to be a strict play-by-play of the games. We're going to discuss how you should play, or how I play Niv-Mizzet, with our ×2 speed here. So we're up against Tasha the Unholy Archmage. This is a pure control steal your stuff deck. Very hard and grindy. The key thing you always need to do, and this is something I say to a lot of people who want to build their Niv deck, do not rush out your Niv unless you are in need of a reload, particularly in a game like this where we have access to Niv immediately. My advice for Brawl is to consider it like 1-for-1 commander or CDH commander. So plays like that, dropping the Knight of Autumn to blow up a mana rock. In a 4-player game of commander that'd be a bit of a dick move, but in a game like this it's perfectly valid. So here we see our opponent clearly holding up counter magic. The fact that they don't immediately run out Tasha to kill our stuff is very clear that they have it. So what we're just going to do is just keep running out lands here and playing to our outs. We have 3 spells that can deal with it. We'll let the Memory Deluge, which isn't great for us, but right now Drown in the Loch doesn't deal with it. And like I said, we're just going to play for play here. Now we could run out of Niv. We're a bit short on white here, so we've only got 1 removal. But there's no need to. We have 5 cards in hand, so anything above a 2 here with Niv would force us to discard. They sheltered us, so I'm going to bring Jegantha to hand. You got to remember, that's always a play here. So we'll see what our opponent does. They uptick. So let's start playing the game here. They take the Knight of Autumn. We'll attempt the D-Spark. And we're happy to 1-for-1 in this exchange because we always have access to Niv. Them replaying Tasha will just give them a slow, grindy few turns, maybe get something out of it. Us, if we resolve a Niv-Mizzet, we get a reload and it's almost insurmountable. So, Sologok's great here because when he dies we'll get another card back, but since they're tapped out, let's kill that Tasha and we'll pass. Because if they want to run out again, we're going to hold up counter magic for it. They play Mind Stone. Just swing in with our Knight of Autumn. Life is a resource, so don't stress about it. We'll Growth Spiral to counter check, and as you can see here, they clearly have counter. So let's run out Smeagol. Smeagol won't trigger or do nothing here. It could trade with Knight of Autumn, but we're just going to deal with it as much as we can. See, now they're burning their resources. They don't have definitive draws here. Going to put us down to 18. Croaks is really good for us here. Problem is we can't run out the back alley Gardener and the Croakser to get a activation to steal land, so what we'll do is we'll play Sologok, and this is where our opponent will probably not use the counter because they want to just use their kill spell, save the counters for Niv. They go for an end of turn Memory Deluge. Now we'll drown this in the lock, force them to basically play some optimally. Now if they want to get in with a hit here, they'd have to trade. Tasha just upticks here. We get a Deadly Brew. They have 2 mana up, but ultimately I don't want this to be traded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attack with Sologok to get his death trigger here. They'll block with the Knight. So Sologok gets us back a land, which we'll just get play right away. Opponent's clearly holding up interaction. Again, it's ×2 speed. But as you see here, we're just not playing into the counter spells with the Niv. We're just going to use all our resources and use all their resources. At some point they are going to have to tap out when we are far more efficient with mana, so we'll go here with an Anguished Unmaking. They go for a Siphon Insight to try and steal something off the top of our deck. So Tasha now costs them 8 mana, which would be their entire turn. And now with a second red we can go Gardener into Croxer, and Croxer is great in this matchup because it's just every ETB will drain them for something. So we'll play the back alley Gardener here. Opponent thinks about using a counter, but they don't. We'll play Croxer, and this is a great feel bad here because now the ETB will trigger. We'll get a land into play. I did want a white there, but we didn't get it. Forces them to discard. They throw away a River's Rebuke. They use Siphon Insight here. Steal another Cardiffus. They go for the Flame of Andor, which they stole from us. They go for a Cruelty of Gix here, and they get greedy. They go for the first one discard with the intention of getting it out. But what we can do with Croxer here is we can delve away all of our creatures. Escape away all of our creatures. So this Cruelty of Gix will have nothing to hit. And if they kill Croxer to reanimate it, it'll just go back to our graveyard again. So what we'll do here, we could cast Niv, but I'm choosing not to. They tutor here. And I want to point this out here, this is ×2 speed, so it's very frustrating. But you'll notice again, we haven't run Niv out. What we're waiting for is them to make actions. They use Frogify here. They go down to 1 blue and nothing else. I'm 90% sure they still have a counter here. So what I'm going to do is use this Arcane Flux here to try and find something. As you see here, there's a delay, so there's definitely something there. I take the Tyrant Scorn because it means you could bounce the Croaks if we have to, but I ultimately decide that we'll get rid of the Flux Channeler because we don't want them to ultimate their commander super easy, and we'll run out the Niv into the camp spell. But right now here, see, look, we can cast Niv again next turn. We have an Inscripted Tablet which should find us another land here, and they are down to basically nothing. So they cast Tasha the Unholy Archmage, use the plus here. We'll use the Inscribed Tablet, grab another land. So what happens now is we get to shock this in, see if they have a counter with Niv. They don't, so we get our reload, and this changes the screw of the whole battle. Reload. We have a tutor, we have burn, we have another creature, we have a dig. We'll tack in here to kill Croxer so we can bring him back later. But we now have a veto to counter whatever they try here. So they try to kill our Niv, we'll fight them now because we have the best resources. They play a Jace, and instead of bouncing Niv because they know how much of a feel bad that is, they draw for something, don't find it, they plus Tasha here, and they just concede because we've outvalued them. Bit of an early concession there, but that's how decks like this tend to go against this. So for another example here, just to give you an idea of how the Niv deck should play, we have a Golos deck here. This hand is a bit slower, but it's pretty good for us, so I want to get the Grimflare out as early as possible. If you want to build a truly optimal version of this deck, you would not play Jegantha. I just have a love for the companion mechanics, so I play them whenever I can. So it's turn 2 here, we'll run out of threat here. But even though we have 5 mana here, we're not speeding towards Niv. What we want to do is 1-for-1 with our opponent until they're at a disadvantage. Because ultimately, as you see here, even this commander, Golos, he's a great commander, but all he'll do is give them another land. And we can then respond with it killing. What we can do is play a 6/6 flyer that will give us a bunch of interaction. Yes, that's the true way you've got to build these decks. They've got to be truly heavily interactive. So we have a way to kill the Deputy here, but I don't want to rush into it. And we top deck a great thing here, so I'm going to play this Traveler's Amulet. And depending on what our opponent does, they play another Temple of Mystery here. Our Unlicensed Disintegration, yeah, we have an opening to cast it now. could do 3 damage because we do control an artifact. That would be irrelevant in a multiplayer commander game, but in a 25 life one-on-one game, very relevant. And it will give us back our Grim Flayer. We draw Frodo. I'm a huge fan of the ring mechanic, by the way, particularly in matches like this. So first things first, I'm going to attack with Grim Flayer. We get a lot of lands on top of our deck here, so I'm going to get that white that I want so I can cast both Frodo and Anguish Unmaking next turn. Our opponent thinks we have interaction, so they're waiting. They drop an Oracle of the Alpha here. Fun trick here, Delirium, for any of you who don't play it. You can see the counter on Grim Flayer is at 3. What we're going to do here is attack, and if they're baited with the block, once we make it the Ring Bearer, if they take the block here, we'll sack the Traveler's Amulet, which will then give us 4 different types of things in our graveyard. They do go for it, so we'll sack Traveler's Amulet. We'll pick up a land here, can't remember what colour. I think I picked red for the Croxer. Yeah, there we go. And we get the Trample Over, so we have Grim Flayer activation again. We'll put the Flame of Ondor on top because it's another thing that can kill Niv-Mizzet here. Ultimately, I choose to maybe thin it out, get another land out of the way. Our opponent has 7 mana here, so it could be 5 mana and a counterspell. They go for the Prismatic Bridge here. We can't let that resolve, unfortunately, so we'll go with the Anguish Unmaking. Play a land here. I'm going to get in while we can. Our opponent didn't respond to anything here, so I'm going to keep Decisive Denial because it's a non-creature counterspell if we did it. So now we'll run out Niv because we're a bit low on resources. And again we get a full 5 hit. We get the ring up to level 2. Our opponent goes for a Genesis Ultimatum, but they don't read that Decisive Denial has a counter mode. And we pick it off. And that's the end of it. So, points for this, remember, don't immediately run Niv out like most commanders, and burn it 1 for 1 until you need the reload.